Good morning. I'm Mushtaq Memon, Regional Coordinator for Chemicals and Pollution Action for Asia Pacific in United Nations Environment Program. And I'm very delighted to receive this invitation to talk about the green jobs in circular economy. So let me share my screen, and my apologies that I am not able to join online because of another commitment. So let's start with talking about the green jobs for the circular economy. And I'm trying to put this in the spectrum of sustainable development goals, knowledge economy, and green jobs. So first of all, let's have a look at the sustainable development goals. As the green economy is one of the tools to support the implementation of sustainable development goals, whether we talk about the poverty issues related with the jobs, we talk about the hunger or sustainable food systems or circular economy in food systems, we talk about health, or we talk about sustainable consumption and production, which is one of the important goals because United Nations Environment Program leads on this goal. So any of the goals, life underwater, life over land, climate change, you name it, circular economy is one of the mechanisms to achieve these sustainable development goals. And to get to the circular economy, we need the right skill sets. And that's what the green jobs are. And as you see in the diagram below, that circular economy model, that we have an input-output, and how we efficiently can play with the input and output without creating pollution, without affecting the nature and biodiversity, and without having the greenhouse gas emissions or the climate change impacts. That's where the circular economy comes handy. Now, look at the knowledge economy, for example, to start with. As many of the universities in the world, they become the knowledge hub, and where they earn a lot from their knowledge economy. And also many regional countries are becoming also the knowledge hubs. For example, Thailand in Southeast Asia. So India is one of the countries, for example, that many universities, IITs, and so on, are really having a great knowledge economy, and most of their earnings, whether it be the direct from the students, from the business partnerships, from the industries, they earn because of the knowledge they are generating, or they are sharing, or they are educating. So this knowledge economy model is very important to start looking at the green jobs. Then another model is a knowledge-based economy. And as we know that many countries thrived on their knowledge-based economy, including, suppose, India, which thrived on the IT-related knowledge-based economy. Same with the South Korea and other countries. So this is another important model that we look into, that knowledge-based economy and the green jobs in perspective. And we also know this knowledge-based economy helps not only to boost the GDP, but also the Human Development Index or the equity issues. So this is very important to look at how with the green jobs, we can also help to improve Human Development Index, equity issues, even the gender issues. So all the social issues can also be addressed through the green jobs. Now coming back to the circular economy angle, and if you focus at the center for Asia Pacific, where you can see that 50% of the resources are consumed in Asia Pacific, while Asia Pacific is only providing 32% global GDP. And then further to deep dive, if you look the disparity between among the countries in South Asia, Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, Pacific, and so on. So looking at every $1 economy gets, how much resources are consumed disproportionately in different countries. For example, in Japan, 0.25 kilogram of natural resources are required to add one additional dollar in the economy, while in Mongolia, it's more than 15 kilogram because of the mining sector. So this is also very important to look on the efficiency of the natural resources to get to the additional economic growth and also to achieve social equity and so on. So that's where the circular economy helps a lot. Now, putting that thought on the one side, let's focus on the practical issues or the challenges. In Asia Pacific, middle income is growing rapidly because over the economic growth and so on, and even in India, if you can see how much shift in the middle income has been seen in the last 2 decades is enormous. But then this middle income group is putting a lot of pressure on the consumption. So there's a mass consumerism that they want to change, let's say, their mobile gadgets every 6 months. They want to order the food at home. They may consume some, they may throw some, they may use the mobility services like transportation and so on for the leisure and so forth. So depending on this mass consumerism, there's a lot of pressure on our natural resources and also on the depletion of the resources due to the pollution we are creating through unsustainable consumption and production patterns. So moving from linear society to the material sound society or the circularity, it's very important to look how this can happen, where we reduce the impact of the natural resources and also the pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, and impacts on the nature and biodiversity, while we continue to improve our life, quality of life, and so on. So looking at the SDI, looking at the healthcare systems, looking at the education, looking at our leisures and so on. So why, without affecting or rather improving that, still we can reduce the pollution, we can reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, we can reduce the nature loss and impact on the biodiversity. And that is possible through the circular economy models. So just giving the example that how the circular economy model can work, we can look at the plastics, which is in focus now as the international treaty is being negotiated. So when we talk about the plastic, starting from the extraction of resources, for example, fossil fuel or gas to produce the plastics, then we produce the polymers, we produce the products, and we consume the products. We throw the end-of-life products, and that creates a final waste also from the production or even from the extraction of resources to the final disposal of the end-of-life products. Now here the scenario is that most of, for example, those products are the single-use products or the packaging. And that's why the plastic is becoming a major challenge to this planet. Otherwise, there are very important uses of the plastics, including in healthcare, including in food safety, and so on. So this whole dimension of circular economy focusing on plastics can help to improve our quality of life by utilizing plastics properly, but also reducing the use of plastics where unnecessary or recycling the plastics appropriately without affecting the environment. So this means we bring in all the stakeholders in focus, starting from the producers of the plastics, from the consumers of the plastics, from the regulators of the plastics, and from the service providers, recyclers, and of the plastics. And to improve that, we need to have a landscape of the situation analysis in place, that what is the baseline, then what type of the interventions, whether it be the policy interventions, including the regulatory or the economic based like extended producer responsibility, or we need a management and technology interventions, including the production technologies or the alternatives to the plastics technologies or the recycling technologies or the business models like a shared economy where we can refill our bottles and so on for the water and so forth. And then also we have information and the education intervention to really bring the social and political changes in a way that helps us to implement this circular economy model. And that's where I put this in this table, that on the one hand, you have the different interventions, and on the other hand, you have this different spectrum or areas to create the circular economy, starting from the eco-design, green supply chain, sharing platforms, extended product life and product use, like banning the single use and bringing the multiple use products. For example, product as a service, as we need water, not the plastic bottle, for example. So how we can get like those refillers at our home, green recycling and recovery. So when we talk about this circular economy with all these policies and everything, we need human resources to do all this. That is where important point is coming. And also the additional point is here is that as we are quickly moving to the artificial intelligence, we have seen the hybrid systems, robotics, and everything, in addition to the conventional engineering for the production of the, let's say, the plastics, if we take that example, or even for the consumption patterns of the plastics, as I mentioned about the shared economy or product as a service, or even for the recycling and collections and so on, using the apps and so forth. So this is also important, that we need the human resources for all these modern technologies. That's where now when we talk about keeping that in perspective, keeping our mass consumerism in perspective, keeping in this circular economy in perspective, keeping in our knowledge economy and knowledge-based economy, these four areas, now we can define the market and assess the demand for the green skills and jobs. And we can look at the current trends, how the supply demand side. For example, many corporates, they are moving their operations to more sustainable ways. For example, moving from the fossil fuel-based energy to the renewable energy for their operations, or shifting their products lines, suppose from combustion engines to the electric engines, for example, as cars or the buses. So we can see what is the demand and supply gap for the green skills for this shift in the production and the consumption patterns, where we call those as a sustainable consumption and production. And then looking at the different stakeholder roles to fill the demand and supply. Suppose consumers' behaviors are changing to say no to the single-use plastics, and also then the supply side, the producers are coming with the alternatives and so on. So then to fill the gap of the green skills, who can do that production or who can push the information to the consumers, this is important to do the gap analysis, and based on that to develop the roadmap and action plan for the green skills. Just another example, as we are now looking at the environmental social governance investments, and many corporates are moving towards the ESG, then whether they have sufficient human resources to really fulfill their ESG targets, as the demand is increasing for those human skills. As in the past, you might have seen that many big companies or small companies, they started hiring the sustainability officers. They started hiring the pollution management officers, for example. The skill sets, the technologies which come with the abatements and so on, all needed the human resources to operate those technologies. In the governments, for example, having the extended producer responsibility law itself, need people who can design that law and who can implement or monitor the law. So this all shift now with the ESG is coming very fast and putting a lot of pressure in the job market for the green skills. Similarly, if you look on the national targets for the net zero by many countries like India, China, Japan, Korea, they want to achieve their net zero targets by 2050, 60, 70, whether they have sufficient human resources to do so, because they need a shift in the technology, they need a shift in the business models, they need a shift in the policy scenarios, and they need a shift in the information and awareness and so on. So this all needs a different, or the what we call the green skills. And similarly, if you look on the shift on the renewable energy milestones, this is from Europe, but we can see also in India, China, other places, how the shift is gone to the solar, hydrogen and economy and so on. So this basically again needs that we need to have a human resources to do so. So that means we look at the supply side, that where their green skills are being taught or people are being trained, whether it be the universities, whether it be the technical institutions, or whether it be the on-job trainings and so on. So this is where our focus is to also assist the supply side. And this is just a hypothetical diagram I have created, that if there's a gap, then we will not be achieving all the targets like SDGs, net zero, for example, ESG, renewable. So we need to really see that at the business as usual or the current scenario, because universities' investments are usually locked for the longer term, because their professors are there and their like laboratories are there and so on. So to quickly change, it is very, very difficult for universities unless there's a lot of, one is a pressure from the industry, from the government, other is the support systems to do so. So even the on-job training for the professors and to acquire the new information, new knowledge is very important. And that's where we need to push this to really achieve all these targets handy. That's why I would like to suggest if we can look on the country's action plans for the green jobs, for the circular economy, it will be very useful. So I am available for any questions next week or down the road to discuss on the action plans or to do the assessment of the demand and supply side. But the one very important thing what we try to promote to the different job fairs, that how companies can show that how their shift, whether in the product line or whether their operation line, requiring the new jobs for next 10 years, 30 years. So universities and other supply side can understand the demand and they can evolve themselves accordingly. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm looking forward to listening to you maybe after this week and so on. Thank you very much.